Hello, Professor Sam, can you hear me?
Okay. Mr. Sam.
Sorry, I can hear you now. Sorry, I didn't know my screen muted itself rather. So I'm back. Welcome everyone, and welcome to today's classes. And you're all welcome. Thanks for attending, and you're all welcome. So in the past, we've been doing a lot. We've done a lot. We've done some of JavaScript. We've done some of introduction to Node.js. So today we'll be moving to RESTful APIs properly. So you're all welcome. And I'll start by saying what RESTful APIs are. So RESTful APIs from here, I'll also paste this documentation so you can actually get a link where you need to. So I'll paste it here in the chat section so you can get to the material whenever you need to access it. So I've dropped the link for the RESTful API introduction, although I'm not going deep into it because directly after we get to understand what it means, we'll be starting a little practical on it. So RESTful API is an architectural style for an application program interface. API simply means application program interface. So whenever you hear API, they are talking about application program interface. So that uses HTTP requests to access and use data. The data can be used to get, put, post, delete data types, which refers to reading, updating, creating, deleting of operation concerning resources. So basically, RESTful API tunes you to the word that the coined acronym called CRUD. When you hear of CRUD operations, you're talking about applying RESTful API. Oh, thank God. I just applied.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I think he's having issues with his network. Can anybody hear
Just
me?
give me.
Oh, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, Remy, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So in the absence of well, Mr. Samuel is still on the call, but I think he's having issues with his mic. So when he's back, he's going to continue. But from before then, I'm just going to take over. So guys, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, then that's a very good one. So it's talking about REST API, right? So REST API, I believe it's a way of interchanging data from one server to another. Like maybe let's say from a front end to a back end. So back end is a server, and then front end, let's assume that front end is on another server. So it makes some requests to that particular API using HTTP or HTTPS, whichever you want to call it. So to fetch that information. So it's just a way of transferring data from one device or from one server to another. So that's just basically simple. So I believe when you start working with all these things, you'll get to understand better. So, okay. Let's see what we can do. Let me just quickly share my screen. I'm sorry about that. I haven't shared it yet. Okay. All right. So let me quickly share my screen now. Okay, guys. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So let me just. Okay. So same. Just in this same tutorial, we are going to be talking about how to create a RESTful API, and yeah, firstly, we're going to talk about installing packages that will help us make work easier for us. So in the last tutorial, we talked about how to use Node to create a server. Yes. So, but in this tutorial, I won't be using like core Node. So we'll be using a package that's going to help us. I already taught us how to install that package or how to install packages. All right. So to create a RESTful API, well, first you have to have a server. So and then since it's basically depends on this CRUD operations, creating, reading, updating, and deleting resources. So we're going to be like making those endpoints available. CRUD, what's it called? RESTful API. It's basically about CRUD operations. So each time you hear CRUD operations, yeah, I believe I'm talking about RESTful API. And each time you want to create an API, of course, you want to have CRUD operations because you can't just create, let's say, you can't create a record in your server or in your database and not at some point be able to delete it or update it or even read it. So yes, you always want to like have CRUD operations. But then firstly, let's just go straight to what's it called, Express. So npm JS. This is going to be like we're going to be visualizing the package I'll be using and then practice a little bit npmjs.org. Okay. So to just mention again, yeah, to remind us, before you can use or before you can start creating Node.js application, firstly you must have what's it called? You must have Node.js installed. So I don't know if we all have that installed, but then if you want to install Node.js, it's basically simple. Just go to nodejs.org and then follow the instruction there. Install it and then follow the installation wizard to show you how to install it. Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm just going to do
a
quick
sorry,
recap.
I just had a glitch.
Yeah, okay, you're welcome, Mr. Samuel. So
okay.
Guys, so we want to install Node.js first. So after installing that, you get your npm, which will help you, or it will give you an access to this their repository here. So you can start using npm to install packages on your command line. So we'll be using Express. So after installing Node.js, then you want to come to npmjs.com to install or to just search Express that we'll be using. So it's a dependency. It's what we're going to be using to create our servers or to demonstrate in this tutorial. So just search for it and then click the name Express, and then it will show you how to install it. So basically this is how to create a server in Node.js with Express.js. So after installing Express.js, you require it, you instantiate it, and then it gives you access to this get method and the likes. So app.get is basically listening for a route. So this is in the CRUD acronym. This get here stands for the read, which is the R. So you are listening for a request on the root directory here. So this slash is basically the home directory of the server, right? So now this is how to like create or listen on a port. So app.listen on a port of 3000. So basically you can have localhost then colon your 3000 because you specify 3000 here. It's always going to be the ports they are going to be using. Okay, so that's cool. So now the installation method is basically simple. It's just this npm. After installing Node.js, then you have access to npm on your command line. So you can just basically run npm install and then you have Express in your project. But first thing, you want to do npm init. So yeah, npm init first to create a package.json. So after installing your Express, it gets saved to that package.json. And then from there, you can start using your Express. Okay, so Mr. Sam, are you ready to take over? Please, if you are, let me know.
All right, I am actually. So I'll be
okay, guys.
sharing my screen again. So welcome back. I'm going to share my screen, then we continue from where we ended. Okay. So we're talking about a CRUD operation. So the CRUD simply stands for create, read, update, and delete. So we began from talking about what the create stands for. So the create is simply like sending new data set to the system or to your server's database, or to your server. Sending new database, creating new database is what create means. And when you say create, an instance is you need to create a login account. You need to, let me use Facebook for an instance. You go to Facebook as an application and you need to sign up for the first time. So that process, whatever happens there, is more like you are creating new data set into the system. So that's what the C stands for. Create, read. Read simply means getting back your information or your data that was sent to the system. So that's what read does. And an instance of what read does, I'll still use read using Facebook. You see all the data that have been displayed back. They are more like data that were sent initially. So that is what that arrow means. It means it brings back the data that was sent into the database or that was sent to your server. Then when you talk about updates, just like you already know it by mere hearing the term update. Update simply means to update whatever data that has been sent into your system's database. Then when you talk about delete, delete simply means to delete. So all of this acronym has request method that are being used to influence them. And this request method, they are many, but we are going to be talking about the key, which are the get, the put, the post, the delete. But if we are talking about others, we still have the patch, we still have in Express, we still have the all and the rest. But for the key methods, which can actually help you do everything you need, then maybe when it comes to doing other minor stuff, like let's say you want to update a very little section out of the whole data, you can make use of something like patch. But for now, get, put, post, and delete will do everything for us. So we begin with get. So what does get do? So the meaning of the in the CRUD, create, read, update, and delete, the meaning of what that read does is being influenced by making use of a get request. So with get request, you get your data. You can either get a single data, you can get the whole data, you can get part of the data depending on what you structure your algorithm to which is the CRUD, the U in the CRUD is what the put functions has. Put actually helps you to update the data set in your database. It could either be a single data, it could be part of the data, it could be all of the data, depending on what you structure your algorithm to perform. So that depends on you as the developer. That's why development, writing codes is not like sweeping the floor. You think of what you want, you think of what the owners or whatever you want to get as a result of your product, and you write your functions to perform that activity. So that is why we initially started you on JavaScript fundamentals, even though you initially had foreknowledge on it, because without Node.js, all depends on JavaScript. Without your knowledge on JavaScript, you might not be able to write your APIs. Then the post, the C in the CRUD, that is create. So that's what the post does. It helps you to post data, just like when you say you go to a mailbox. In those days, we used to have stuff like the mobile, what they call it again, where you go to post letter to people, say they call it the post office box here, post office box, you get there, you post your letters or your letter to someone. That's what a post does. It sends data into the system. So that is what your post does. And your delete, which is the last one, just like it is, you already know what it means. It is what it helps to delete from the database or whatever you want it to delete. But the algorithm, just like I always say, depends on you and depends on what you want to achieve with it. So yeah, we've done our introduction. So before I continue, time we start going into practice, we will know that this is what we are touching and what we are not. So we won't be confusing some. You raise up your hand and I'll give you an opportunity to ask, and yeah, we'll continue. Hello, are we all there? Please, if you have any question, kindly indicate by raising up your hands. So, okay. All right, in the absence of any question, I assume we are all following. So I'll continue from my code base, and we are going to write our very first API today. And we are going to write it using a package known as Express, which my brother, Mr. Elijah, already introduced to you. So Express is a JavaScript framework, light framework that makes writing APIs with Node.js simple. It is not really the only, but it is the most common, it is the most used, it is the most popular currently. So we also have things like Happy.js, we also have things like Core.js, but Express tops the list. So let's see what Express has for us. So with Express, we can perform all our APIs activity in with a simple API to get a set of data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up a file here now on my VS Code so we can use it to perform our activities. So as we move on, I'll also introduce us to other modules, useful modules that will make us writing our endpoints. Okay, that will make us doing our Node.js, that will make our Node.js very simple and sweet. So that is the idea behind all these modules that are being created every day by other developers. They are just there to make development simple and sweet. So
okay, Mr. Samuel, we are not seeing your VS Code. Hope you are aware.
sorry,
we aren't seeing your VS Code. Yes, we can, but we can't see your VS Code.
Oh, I didn't share my screen. I didn't. Sorry, thought I shared my screen.
No, you shared a part. You shared a part of it. You didn't share the entire. In fact, you didn't add VS Code to the one you're sharing.
At the moment, can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can, but you're only sharing your browser, I think.
Okay. I understand you perfectly. Sorry about that. How about now? You can see my browser.
Yes, we can see your browser.
How about now? You can see my VS Code?
Not yet.
Can you see my VS Code now?
Not yet.
Wow. Can you see my VS Code now?
No, we can't see you.
Okay. How about now? Can you see my VS Code now?
Not yet. You're still seeing nothing is shared
I
now.
thought I shared my window again. Okay, let me go and share the windows again. I've shared my windows again. Let me try it again. How about now? Can you see my VS Code? Hello?
Yeah. Hello, Sammy, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Can you see my VS Code, please?
You need to share your entire screen, okay, not just a particular section. So when you click on, you need to share your entire screen. Don't just click on the browser. You'll share your entire screen. That's what will help you.
Okay. It's where the entire screen. Okay. How about now? Let me go back to my VS Code. How about now? Can you see my VS Code, please?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. So I am going to be creating a new Windows and a new file for this. So we start our endpoint from scratch because we are going to be building a very simple one. So I wanted to use a default folder structure, but since we are still starting, it might not really matter if we are doing a proper folder structure now, because we just need to understand the CRUD. Maybe in our next classes, we are going to discuss on folder structures. So I'm going to be creating a file here. Let me name it file. New file. Oh, this stuff. Sorry, give me some minutes to see if I can just add up a new folder that we'll be using to work. Then we'll just be using it to work so that when next time coming for the classes, I'll just continue from the folder.
Mr. Samuel, hope you are aware that we can't hear you. You are muted.
How about now? Can you hear me? How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Hello?
hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. So I have actually created a folder. We'll be working with this folder whenever I have lectures to deliver on Node.js. So this folder now is what we'll be building our APIs. So as we move, we can actually proceed along, so that as we move, we can be following and be asking questions if necessary. So the first command I did, let me kill it first and restart it. So the first thing is to open your terminal. So if you don't know how to open your terminal, come to this place. Look at this place here. We have on your VS Code. Sorry, I didn't even ask. Does everyone make use of VS Code? Is it everyone that makes use of VS Code here? Please, if you don't
Yes, for me, yes.
make use of VS Code, let me know. If you don't make use of VS Code, kindly raise up your hand. Let me just, okay. Is everyone? Martins, do you make use of VS Code? Because I
Yes.
saw you unmuted your mic. Okay, Audu Moses does not make use of VS Code. Audu, please, let me hear from you. Do you make use of VS Code? Please kindly unmute. Kindly unmute, Audu Moses.
Yes, I do. I make use of VS Code.
Okay. No, I was asking if anybody doesn't, if there's anyone here that doesn't make use of. Okay, it simply means everybody makes use of VS Code, so we can actually proceed. So, yeah, on your VS Code, you have something here called terminal. When you click on terminal, you see new terminal, click on it. You can actually make use of your manual command line tool, but with VS Code already has an inbuilt command line tool that enables you to just run your command. But before then, I remember Mr. Romelekun actually showed us how to install Node.js in the initial class, and he just did the recap before I met. So I assume that everybody has the Node.js installed already. Or if you don't have, so you don't backdate us, just make use of the link you shared initially. Or if you don't really have the link down, I can just open it and share it in the chat section so that you get back to it later and how to install Node.js. So I'll share it there so that when you have your time, you just go through it and install it on your own so you don't bring all of us backward again. Yeah, so I've shared the link. So that should you not have Node.js, you'll be able to install it on your own. So back to our VS Code. This is our terminal, and you saw how I opened it. I came to this place. Although we have other terminals that are not inbuilt, we have our normal command line. We have, depending on what you want to do, you have as many inbuilt command line that comes with VS Code, which actually comes with whatever you have installed already on it. So we want to, Node.js works with some set of files that enables it functions properly. So we have the we have the package.json. The package.json is more like where your dependency are being recorded, and it also enables you to do a sort of settings that enables the Node.js functionalities. That is the settings functionalities function the way you want it to. For instance, if you want it to make use of ES6 instead of ES5, it is there you make use of it. For instance, you need some dev dependencies, you want to install some dependencies that you want them as dev dependencies, but not as full dependencies. You make use of, you install it and set it in such a way that it will be structured on your command line. Your package.json. Your package.json also takes a lot of records, like it keeps track of your current what do you call it again? Your current module updates and the rest. So for us to get this package.json, we run a command called npm init. So this is how you do it. Npm init is your command. When you come here, you see it will ask me a question, the package name. That is this app. It is asked, and if you can see, it has KodeCamp here, because that was what I named my folder as. So I can decide to actually leave it like this, or I rename it, but I want to leave it like this since we are doing with KodeCamp. Then it asking me of the version, so we can decide to change version. But if you don't want to change version, you leave it like this. Just enter, click on enter. What I'm actually doing is clicking on enter. So we have description here. I can decide to say KodeCamp lecture. So, and enter it. But even if I don't, so the entry point, it's asking me if the entry points should be index.js. So it's actually a sole decision of mine. You can decide to name yours as server.js or whatever you wish. So it all depends on you. So I want mine to be index.js. So the test command. So when we start doing testing, you can actually do a test command here. As at now, we can leave it to come and populate it with no command for now, because whatever command that will even start depends on us. We are going to, when we start making use of running our app, we are meant to be the people we are meant to individually write whatever we want as the command to run our app, to test our app, to even run it as the development phase. When I mean development phase is what command should it be run when you are working on it on your local machine. Then you are meant to also do, let's say if you want to run a production command. So that production command simply means when it has been deployed, what command should it be run on the cloud. So that all depends on you. We can just leave it as blank for now. So Git repository, if let's say you want this directly from GitHub, you have to go to GitHub and copy the link and put it here. But since we don't want, for now, since we are working only directly with our local machine, can bypass it. Keyword, anything you want, it's just, let's say, KodeCamp. It all depends on you. You can leave it as blank. So the name, let me use KodeCamp as the author. All depends on you. The license, it all depends on you. You can leave it like that. But what license does is if let's say you are leaving your work public on, let's say, GitHub, your code base is actually your personal property. So you are actually responsible to either license it to everyone, your product or your software. You write whatever you want, how the license to be. You want it to be either you want it to be open to everyone, or you want it to be open to just some set of people. Let's say you want it to be licensed to, let's say, only people that are copying code who are actually learning via KodeCamp. And you write it there that so long you are using it for only KodeCamp, it is okay. And if let's say you want to use it for anything production beyond this, tell them it's not like that. Or it just depends on you, whatever you want. So that licensing is all your own responsibility. So we have, is this okay? You say yes. So if you check now, I've gotten my package.json file created. And if you check very well, you see that it has some of the things we answer, some of the questions we answer. So this is more like the test script I was talking about. So for now, we are not running any tests. So as we proceed, I'll show us how to do our start script. I'll show us how to do maybe a dev script if we need to put a different script for dev and production or whatever, but we are not really producing right now. So it will be more just the normal start or dev script on our local machine. So these are the keywords. This is the author and the license. By default, the license is ISC. So you can decide to change it to depending on what license you want to make use of. So let's proceed. Before I proceed, I'd like to hear if anyone has any problem, any challenge trying to get the package.json file. Does anyone have any problem with that? Martins, Aldo, Moses, Suleiman. Anyone has any problem with that? Martins, you said none, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, Moses, no problem. Joel, any problem with getting your package.json file? Suleiman, any problem getting your package.json file? All right.
No, for now, I don't have any
Yes.
problem.
Okay. In the absence of no problem, then we have to proceed from here. So, in order for us to proceed, we need to be able to have our Node.js. We need to actually install some packages we need. And for us to install the packages, that depends. I normally make use of Yarn, but for the fact that Npm is the most popular and Npm is the oldest, and for the sake of the class, so that you not be confused when you get to meet other fields in the class, I'll make use of npm. So npm is actually, npm simply means node package manager. It was actually created by Isaac Dawson, and the reason Isaac Schuller, sorry, the reason he created it was in order to make installation of packages simpler. Before now, other languages had their own package managers, like let's say Python has something they call pip. So when installing on Python, you do something like pip install or pip install. So Isaac thought that it would be difficult for if someone wants to use set of files, you have to go and copy all of them from somewhere and come and use on your local machine. He said it wasn't that cool. So what if you should create something that any package that you need, you just have to install it and it will be on your local machine. And while deploying it to your production environment, you won't need to be bundling the whole packages back. Right? That you only have to send your codes to the production. npm was actually developed for to make bringing your code base to make your code base light. So we have npm, and the packages we're using for now, we're using Express. So Express is more like a Node.js like framework that enables us to simplify the more of like our code base. If you are writing, let's say, a simple HTTP request on, let's say, your conventional Node.js without Express or without any other third party, what happens is that you have to make use of a whole lot of codes to achieve something very little. So Express came to help simplify that. Then we have okay, for now we'll be doing with Express. We'll talk about that. So if you can see, I've done npm I or install. It all means the same thing. So Express is the package that we want to install. So npm install, you have your npm uninstall, you have your npm update, then you have your npm install dev. You have a lot. If you look for there, it should be documentation of all the commands there. If I'm chance before the class, I'll sort that out for us to have them. But for now, I think your most important npm command is the npm install. So npm install enables you to bring that package. This package now is actually in the cloud. So when you click on npm install Express, what happens is that it takes some time and install the package to your local machine. So let's give it some time to install it. So something just happened. Let me see what that is. npm Express. Let's see. Like I said, I normally don't make use of npm, so I don't know if that's the reason why it could not install on npm. So I've gone back to my yarn, but for the sake of the class, please make use of npm. So that, let me drop the command for npm here. Npm install Express. For the sake of the class, make use of npm so that when you make, because right now you don't currently have yarn on your system, I have yarn installed already, so make use of npm. So this is the command on npm, but for those using yarn, make use of yarn add Express. So I've dropped it in the chat section for those who will be making use of yarn. I saw someone's question here. Let me see if I can respond to it. Okay. Well done, Mr. Melekun. So back to our work. So we are going to be creating a file. This is our entry main file. When they say entry, it means that where the file that runs, that triggers every other to run. So it's your entry file. So we have it as index.js. So it all depends on you. You can decide to do any one. You can decide to use server.js, but whatever convention you are using, make sure that you follow it up. If you observe difference between, before I installed this and now, you see that we didn't have node modules before, but now we have node modules. If you observe too, if on yours you will have package log.json, not yarn log. Why we have yarn log is because I make use of yarn. But if you make use of package, if you make use of npm, you are probably going to get package log.json. So what package log.json does, or yarn log does, is to keep track of whatever has been installed, the versioning and all. So that is what package log.json does. So we already have our first file. So initially we had something like this, console.log. This was what Mr. Lumeleko was teaching before. Let's say hello world. If initially I had something like this, when you run, so right now we've not written what our run command is here on our package.json. So because we don't have that currently, once you just see node index, what happens? You see it outputs what? This is from this file. It outputs what? It outputs our npm, our hello world. So it means that it just only shows that our file is following. But something happens. If I save this, what will happen? You see that it does not refresh it and reload it. So it doesn't watch. That is what it means. So for us to persist this, let's say if I add a file here now, another command here, sorry, another console here. My name is Sam. So something happens now. If I save, I've saved it. I just did Control save, just that you cannot see my hand here. So I've saved it, but something happened. It did not run. It's supposed to run automatically. It means that it is not watching. We have to be running it every time that we need to make it output. So in order for us to avoid that, we will have to install another dependency. But before that, let me set up my start command here. So I was talking about scripts here. Let's say start now. Start. So with our script, we don't have to be calling this direct. We don't have to be calling npm in node index.js always. We can just set up a script that if we run that script, it will run whatever we set in our scripts. So let's say the script should be npm start. By then, that time we'll not be making use of node again, we'll be making use of npm. So the script will be code index.js. The reason of node index.js is because any file that is in your root. With this now, we've told start that anytime we do npm start, look into what command is in this place and run it. That's what we are just simply telling it. So let's save it now and see something. So now if we say npm start, it performs exactly the same action as it was initially. So it looks into this place and sees that there is a command here like start and runs it. But imagine that you do not have any command here like you have, okay, let's decide to change that to something else. Let's just leave it as start and decide to run it now. You see what happens. It breaks. Why it is breaking is because it has looked into this place. It has looked at script, and after looking at script, it could not see the start command. So that's why it decided to break. So there's a reason why we decided to set up our command here. This is because we are setting up a start and we need to be doing npm start always. But we don't want npm start always. There's a package called nodemon. We install it as our dev dependency. Yarn. I'll show you how to install it on npm anyway. So this is how to install it on with yarn. Yarn add, sorry. So I'll drop the command on how to install a dev dependency on your own package or with your npm now. So how to install a dev dependency on npm. Okay. So how to install npm? I'll just drop the command here: npm I dev, then dev. Then the package name is nodemon. Nodemon. So this is how to install it on your npm. So the way I did it there is to install it on yarn. But since you are making use of npm, make use of this plan. Well done, Mr. Elijah. So now we have our dev dependency with this. So the idea behind nodemon is, okay, let me start by what dev dependency means. Dev dependency simply means that you are not using it in anything production. You're only using all these dependency in development phase. So with this, it means that you don't have to start installing it to go to your production later. So what you have to do is you just run the command to save it under dev dependency, and it will be utilized only as a dependency used during the development phase. So let's see the difference between the initial and this. Now is express that we installed. We installed with npm I install. This is what we installed with npm I dev install. Sorry, npm I dev, then the package name. So the difference is this is where everything you install as a normal dependency comes to. This is where everything you install as a dev dependency comes to. This one will be utilized by all of everything you are doing. This one will only be utilized within the development. So it depends on your settings as well. So from here now, I want to do a command called dev. So the reason we are doing this is because this command will only be used within the development environment, and it will also watch for nodemon index. It will also watch for changes. So this start doesn't watch for changes. What's the difference between watching for changes and not watching for changes? Look at this thing now. Let's say npm start. Let's go back to our npm start. This is what happens. This is start. It simply starts, and when you update, make a change here. Let me add another line. It won't watch and make any. I have saved it. You can see there is no change here. So, but if we do npm dev, something happens. Come to this place now. Package your JSON, because I have added a script called dev, and I've made it for, I've actually structured it in such a way that you should look into this place and run this. What happens here is nodemon is that third party that I installed as a dev development. What nodemon has done is that nodemon as a module is a kind of package that reruns the system as changes are being updated. So if I run this command now, npm dev, since I updated it with nodemon, check what happens.
Okay, actually, Mr. Samuel, it should be npm run dev. So the start script is not the same as, it's not the same as the dev script.
Okay. That's true. So as you can see, npm run dev, I've implemented npm run dev. So when you click on save now, what happens is that it updates automatically. So when I come here to add, let's say, a line, and say I just make anything, I am learning. When you save it, what happens? It updates automatically. So with that, now we've learned about two parts. packages. One is Express and the other is Node Mon. So we can decide to. So yeah, we are making use of ES5. The difference between ES5 and ES6 are like the ES5 doesn't make use of the constant function. The ES6 makes use of it. ES5 doesn't make use of import. ES6 makes use of it and a lot of things. So we are going to be making use of ES5. The reason is because we are starting from scratch, but then ES6 is sweeter, and that's what I make use of. But for the essence of all getting to know from foundation and moving up, then we have to start using ES6. Meanwhile, if you have chance, you can find your way to understand the differences between ES5 and ES6. And let's see if I can just get the material for us, a resource here for us to. Okay, I saw material here, so I'll just drop it for us there, so that whenever you have a chance, you can go find out, you can go look into it and learn more the difference between ES5 and ES6. I've dropped the material there for us. So we are going to be writing our very first request. We're going to be doing our first request method. And firstly, we are supposed to, they are actually tools for displaying or for testing our endpoints. So for a normal GET request, a GET request can actually work on a browser, but then you start working with request methods like post, put, and the rest. They can't work on your browser. So you need something called, there are a lot, but the most popular being Postman. You need something called Postman to be able to test your request. And if it breaks in there, you come back to rework on it. So you can install, this is how Postman looks like. Let me go to Postman. This is how Postman looks like. So if you can, let me just do a little proper introduction on Postman, then we'll move forward from there. So with Postman here, Postman enables you to get your what you call your route or your API endpoint. You input it, then you select the methods. These are all methods you need. As you can see, I told us that there are a lot of methods, but for now we are making use of just get, post, put, and delete. So all of these methods have different functionalities, but this 1, 2, 3, and 4 will probably do all everything you need to do using your APIs. So it depends on whatever, let's say you want to make little more changes or more specific changes, then you start making use of others. But with this one, post, put, delete, and get, you can actually do everything you want. So this is your get request now. Let's say the method you want is a get request. When you click on it, what happens is that you come here, it imputes your API endpoint, then you click on send, then it will display the results here as an output, depending on whatever you set as your response in your endpoint. Good. So we are starting properly now. So before we move on, we are going to reference our Express. Express is our first package. This is how we require an object in Node.js ES5 anyways, because ES6 does not do this. So I remember Mr. Elijah telling us that they are inbuilt packages, and they are actually the ones you have to install. So there's those ones that come with npm by default, but Express is not one of them. Express is not one of them. So if you can still remember, it was the first thing we installed. So we are still working with Express. So we require Express here, and there is the normal convention is Express is after calling it here, what happens is that you call it as a function here, then you make that function. And that function is more like your app that you make use of to run everything. So what this thing just did is it referenced this express here. It called it as a callback function here. So that is what this very app just did. So whenever you install your express, you have to listen to it. If you don't listen to it, it means it won't really look at where it is being called. It won't really have a place to be called. So this function now, which is app, we can actually name it anything. This app can be named as anything, but the normal it's not really a normal convention, but a popular convention is calling it as app. So you say app.listen. So listen actually listens to two arguments, and one of them port you want to listen to it in. So let's say port 5000. Then the second is a callback function, and this callback function is if it happens if let's say you want to, it's mostly for debugging, you want to check if it fails or not. So let's say we can pass in something here to, if we don't pass in something, it definitely means that if it runs, it just tells us that it is running, or it just shows that your app is actually listening to something. So with this now, I want us to experiment something, and when we experiment, something will happen. This 5000 simply means it is listening to. So if you observe, you see that we have running here. It means it did not break. It is actually running. So we can decide to say, we can decide to actually test this local host. This 5000 shows that it is running in localhost 5000. So if we come to this place, observe very well, you see what will happen is that it's most likely going to break, but let's test it so that we'll know what we are talking about. This is the 5000. It cannot get. The reason is because it is showing that yes, I am listening. But when I'm listening, what happens? I don't get anything because it's not written anything to show. Let's see the difference between this and let's say we get to add something. Let's know if truly you see that one broke. Why do we know that the other one is active and this one is not active? Because that one showed something that it is active, shows that cannot get. That's to say it shows that it is running but cannot get. It cannot really get anything. Why it is even telling you that cannot get is because get request is actually a browser by default make use of a get request. So all pages you see on a browser are get request. So let's go to our Postman and see how to do this on Postman. Come to Postman, click here. This is our, sorry, I pasted the same URL at 5000. This now is set to a get request. So when I click on send, okay, it returns back cannot get, because we did not actually write any algorithm to do what we want it to perform. So it is just like that. So welcome back to our page as normal. So we are going to be writing our first endpoint. Let's say we want an endpoint that will show my name is Sam. So it's just a normal get request, and it is going to be displaying our data as it's going to be displaying our data as JSON. But something will happen in this first stage. Just watch and see, watch very, very well. So it will lead us to installing one other package. So let's say, so to install, to create your route, you say app dot, let's say it's a get request you want to create. You say get. So if you can see now,
Hello. Okay, so I think Mr. Samuel has frozen. I think it is network though. Okay, so maybe I should just continue by sharing, or maybe we should give him a little time. Mr. Samuel, are you there? Okay, I don't think he's here. Mr. Sam? Okay, I'm just going to just go ahead and share my screen then. Any time you join us. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right, I'm just going to continue from where you stopped.
Where you passing the data from? Let's say
Oh,
it
great.
could be from the head.
It's back online.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You just.
Well, am I
yeah,
breaking?
No, you disappeared before.
Wow. Sorry about that. I think.
We didn't hear
Okay.
you like for a minute.
All right, just you can pick up from there.
Wow.
Share your screen again.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's fine. Just...
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we
can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. How about now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you very much. So I was saying our first request method now we are writing is a get request. And what a get request does is, just like I said, it displays. And I told us that for us to get this very request, it takes this format. This is your local host. This local host 5,000. Since we are still on our development, takes in localhost 5,000 slash. Anything we impute here is what we are going to listen to it from our Postman. So since we are passing in man here, it means when we are listening to it, it will be /man. So it takes in, firstly, the endpoint route. Then secondly, our request and response, which come as a callback function. So this callback function, it takes in request and response. What request does is, requests are just like where whatever data you will collect to perform your algorithm come from. The response simply means the response that you want it to, the response you want to be responding after it performs whatever actions. Request can be made from the body. It can be made from the head. You can even define your own request types and request sources. Like you can decide to, let's say, if you are working with the user, you can decide to write and make express to a data source, like let's say not conventionally. By default, request has body, it has header, it has a lot of places actually that you can get the data from. It has the params. So for now, we'll be talking about just the response. After that, if we are chanced enough, we'll do the request. So response is actually more like the output. So let's say response that send. So response enables you to respond or give any response to the body the way you want it to show. So let's say I am learning Node.js. So when we save it, something happens, and what happens is that it has watched for it and it has rerun. We can see that it reruns here. So for us to know, to get these things that we've sent here, when we come to our Postman, we pass in man here. Okay, I am learning Node.js. So okay, so this is JSON format. We can respond using redirect, but since we are not redirecting to anything, I wouldn't want to bother people with that. So we can respond using many other formats. sorry, not the format. Most importantly, what's most important is what you want it to do after responding. So this response too has a method before that one that we can actually use for us to know if our request is successful or not. So let's say just like Mr. Rumelekun taught us the other day, there are a lot of all the status codes have their a message it is trying to convey. So when you say 200 implements a successful message, a success message, 400 now. So I dropped a link last week that you can actually use to check your, so you can see here we have bad request, but initially when we passed in 200, it showed us that it was success message. It was a good request. So whatever you are trying to convey there is what you pass in there, so that if it fails, it responds the other way. If it passes, it responds the other way. That all depends on you, whatever you are trying to achieve. So let's move on from here. So now what can this response output? It can output almost everything. It can output JSON data. It can output HTML format. It can output a normal string. It can output almost anything you want it to output. That's what, depending on what you want to use it for. So let's continue with this GET request. At the moment, we are not using a database, but let's say we want, let's try an object, sorry. Let's say object test. Let's try to output an object. We say man, John Doe, age 33, feet, the arena, city, London. So we want to output an object here. You can see that this is actually an object. I want to output it here. Once we click, we can just put in as a variable here, a variable with an object. So let me leave it as 200 because we're not expecting any error right now. So when you click on this, when we come to this place and output, you see that it will give us our result as an object. So basically, this is more like, this is your GET request in Node, not in Node.js, but in APIs generally. Whether you are building API in any language, what happens is that your GET request actually gets the data, be it in any language at all you are using. But since we are dealing with Node.js now, let me pass in man here because it's man I used for that. So this is how it outputs here. So for your front end guys, it's most likely this format you are going to be giving them most of your data in JSON format. So how JSON format comes is, JSON format comes as an array of objects, So it's most likely this format that some of the data that they'll be using. Not like all, I'm not saying all, so that will not be mistaking it for something. Sometimes what it outputs, depending on whatever you are writing your API for, sometimes what it outputs is what do you call it? Sometimes what it outputs is it's just the message itself. So let's try something now. We are going to give this thing a lot of data. We're going to give it a lot of I'm just going to change. It's an object. It's an array of objects now. Sorry. It's an array of objects. So we are going to populate it with different data here. This one is Sarah Do. And this one is James Do. James. So let's also give these things IDs. ID, let's say 1, 2. Okay, ID 2. ID 2. ID here 3. ID 3. 3. So firstly, we can actually get all of these objects using everything in this array of objects using just this first. Let's say this is our first request. Let me be commenting so that we know what we are doing. Get all users. So let's assume these are all our registered users now. So this is what you want to give to your front end guys. So, and we are not really performing any request. It is just normally we should be, maybe we would have been getting it from either the, but at the moment, let's assume these are just objects. Database. So it's just an object. So when we enter here, we want to output it. We are going to, let me change this one to all users instead of man. All users. So these are all the users that are registered in our database now. All users. So this is the command, the endpoint I'm using to get all our users. And I click here. What happens is that when I come here, when I click this one, what will happen is I cannot get because we don't have anything like man again. But if we say all users, we get all our users. Good. So right now we've gotten all our users, but we want to get, let's say we want to get only John or only Sarah or only we want to get only either of them. We don't want to get all of them. So basically, if we're using a database, let's say we're using a database, what we'll do is app.get. Let's say we want to pass by params. I'll show us what params are. So when we pass here, we say user, and the param here, let's say is ID, that's the param we want to, but we are not using database at the moment. So if you can look at it very well, you will see that most of what we just did is the same thing. Like, let me give this space. It's the same thing like what we did initially, but the difference is that with this one we added ID. So let's say const user is equal to, how we do it when we are making use of database, we say this object test now. Let me change it to all users rather. So if we are making use of database, what we do is we say all users dot find. I would have said find by ID, but we are not using real IDs at the moment. So once we say find, we can specify where we want it to look into. So we say let it look into ID, and inside that ID, it should find what request dot params dot ID. So what ID? Then when we come to this place, we say console dot rest dot status 200 Json a specific user. So when we go to our when we come here, we say user. Okay, the reason it is breaking is because we are not using it. We are not using our normal database now. We are not searching it from a database schema at the moment. We are just using a normal object. If not, normally, if we're making use of it from our database, what happens is that it looks for the ID that has the ID of whatever we pass in there. When it locates it, it outputs it. Next, in our next class, I'll look for a way to set up database, because normally I don't even make use of local database on the local machine. So at the moment, I don't even have it set it here. Whenever I want to set up database, I set it directly online and start performing my functions. So at the moment, we do not have database, but one thing to take home is that this is how you perform your GET request or your request, your basic request. Then if we want to perform, let's comment on this. When to perform, let's say, at this moment, we cannot really update anything because we do not have any database we are working with. But let's say you want to perform any method, any data method at all, request method at all. So long you already understand what the function is, like let's say you already understand that post means to add a data. All you have to do is app.post, because post is the request method we are calling. Then we say, let's say we're using user, we want to add a user. We say request response. So we didn't, just like I said, we didn't set up any database at the moment. So we can't really add up any user. This thing now is more like a static data. So we didn't set up, we cannot really add or delete right now, unless we want to use the basic filter that we use in JavaScript, which can actually add it, but it cannot really make it to be added to this place. It can only add it to the display and be removed from the display. Or currently, if you are making your request, things to add data into the, that is to send data. So you just request for where you want it to come from. Let's say if it is from the body, and use, okay, with this in this instance 6, it might not work. We can use this other convention. You say request. Let's say we want to pass in let new user equal to let's say we want a new user to be added, but the truth is it won't be added because we are not dealing with any database at the moment. We're just using it. Let's say Jamie. But the take home for you is that you should understand that when making a post request, when adding to your system, you are adding any data, you are sending any data in, make use of post request. So basically, if we're using a server, what we do is we say rest dot. First of all the server const users, that's all users, it's equal to all users. So these all users references this, and say dot find. So when it references this, what we do is we come here and say, okay, it's not find, it's create, because we are adding is create that we do when we are adding dot create. But at the moment, the truth is, just like I said, we are not using any server, so we cannot really add anything to our database. So basically, if we're making use of a live server, what we do is, once we create this place here, this is what you want to add into your server, yeah? So you use this method here, create, to add whatever you are creating here. And what happens is that it adds it to, this is what your schema, your database schema is, it adds it to it. And when it does, you respond with anything you want to respond with. But let me use status code. So status code is very, very important. It helps your front end, and it also helps you to, as a back end, it helps you to know when anything is breaking, and it helps the front end guys to know where everything is breaking and how to write their own algorithms too. So it's not going to do anything right now, but basically, if you are performing your post request, this is what you do. You can see whatever I name it, you name it here is what you will use. So when we come here, we click on this. I named it as user. I've already passed in the data through, but basically we have to create the data through the body. So when I click on post, it's going to drop an error, because we know that all users is definitely not coming from a database. It's just something we just created to just use as an instance. So at the moment, I'll create an opening for us to ask questions, so that I'll get to understand our level of understanding. When next I'm coming, I'll know where to start from. Thank you. Joel, are you still there? Joel, are you still there? Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. All right. So
Yes, I can hear you.
all right. Okay, let me ask individually. Martins, do you have any problem with what we have so far?
No, I don't have any problem. I'm following.
You're following. So
Yes.
you can create your first request right now.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Moses, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
I didn't really
So
get all, but I'm going to rewatch the video and probably work on it again. So by then I'll be able to
okay.
successfully.
Okay. So what will happen is, yeah. I will let me drop the API, sorry, the docs for Express itself, so that by the time you go on your own, and also while you practice, once you have any question, you can always come back to me. So we've gone past some of what we have here. So yeah, I'm dropping the docs now. Okay. Mr. Elijah wants to have some time with you people. So for now, let me just get responses from everybody. Then he can go on. Then Joel, can you hear me? Joel, can you hear me? Joel seems not to be there. Sule, can you hear me? Sule, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You have any questions so far?
No, I don't have a question. Actually, I'm using my mobile phone to follow the class. I don't have power. So I'm going to rewatch the video. If I have any question, I'll get back to you.
Okay. No problem then. Who else do we have? All right, so I'll be handing over to brief you or the post and put setup. So I can't really do that at the moment. So while he does that, if you have any question, you can always ask him. And if you have any other question that is let's say during your studies, you can reach me on Slack or you're reaching on Slack. So I'm dropping my, sorry. Don't reach me directly. Ask the question openly though. Ask the question openly on Slack if you have any question, and we can actually come to your rescue. So thank you very much. Mr. Elijah, you can actually have the floor now.
Okay, guys. All right. So what I quickly want to say is we'll be given a task at the end of this this whole session. So I would advise you guys to like try as much as possible to go over this tutorial again, because if you're aware now, we've splitted on the Slack channel. So every what's it called? Every track with their own assignment, and then when you deliver your assignment, you get promoted according to what you did. Yes, according to your score. So if you are given an assignment based on what you were taught in this session, you have to do it. And if it's a promotional assignment, then it depends on your work. So I'll urge you guys to pay more attention and get your hands on with code. Get your hands dirty. Like after this session, you can go on Google, make some research to be sure you deliver the best of your project. Yeah. So that's it. But also, I wanted us to even go further. So I think he gave us some examples on how to make a GET request, maybe also post request, put and delete. I don't really know, but so I just want to quickly chip in maybe a post request that creates a data. It creates a data, so you have to pass in the data, and then when you try to make a post request, it will create that data for you. So it won't just be as if we'll be working on just GET request alone, because the assignments can pretty much cover maybe a GET and also a post request. All right, so let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, can you guys hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so, and sorry, I won't be using Postman. My system is kind of having some conflict with Postman. So, but this app I'm using, or this software I'm using, is more like Postman. Okay, so I'm just, let me just quickly start this server. Dev, very good. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Npm Install. Okay, so I'm using -d. That also tells Node that it's a development dependency. So it's more like the --dev. So don't get it confused, don't get it twisted. All right, so cannot find, oh yeah, let's press. All right, sorry guys, I just want to quickly do some setup. So app.get /users. Yeah, we can call it users or user/all. How about that? So our function, our handler. Okay, so so let me just quickly go over this again. So I have get all user function, all users. Okay. Okay, guys. So there are basically different ways of well, it's pretty much the same, but different ways of handling your callback functions. So according to Mr. Samuel, he wrote his callback function directly inside of the get request parameter. So what he did was something like slash whatever the endpoint is, maybe /man user, I don't know, and then he did comma, then wrote an anonymous function directly inside this second parameter here. So that's one, and you can also like write the functions elsewhere and then pass it, just call the name directly there. So don't get it twisted. All is the same. All is basically the same thing. So don't get it twisted at all. Okay, so what I want us to know is we can actually create an array of objects for all our users. Like here we have all user records. Let's assume that this is what we have in our database, this array of users. We have about 3 to 4 users here. I think it's 3 users. So we have 3 objects. This is the first one, and this other one is the second, and then we have the third with different IDs. Okay, so when you're working with databases, you are going to be having like random IDs, unique IDs. So take this one, for instance. It's having 1001, 1002, 1003. So they are different. You don't want to like mix them up because by convention, database always returns a unique IDs. So for instance, MongoDB. So it depends on what you, for Postgres or SQL, it depends on what you specify there. You can actually manually generate IDs for, what's it called, for Postman and for Postgres or SQL database. Okay, so we're just going to quickly jump in and test this code. So for get all users, notice is referencing to the all user records. So remember this, we only have 3 users in our database for now. So let's try that out, right? So we have get all users. So yeah. Okay. I'm also going to use. Okay, so I'm sorry. Can you see my screen? HTTP.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, cool. So we have localhost. I think our own port here is 3000. So if I check where we have port here, which is 3000. Okay, so let me just quickly do a recap. So app.listing is a way of telling your server to listen on a particular port. So whatever port you put here is the port that your app is going to be running on. So the first parameter is your port number. So as you can see, if I hover on it, it shows me via port number. Yeah. So normally it's expecting a number. Put your port number there. And I think if you also have maybe a host, a domain name, you can also pass it there, but I don't know. But this other function here, it's a function that does not return anything within it. So if you check, I think it should say void. So void means that it's not returning anything, basically void. So if you put a parameter there and you're expecting to get anything out of the parameter, I'm sure you get nothing. So, but our app is running and is listening on port 3000. So let's go and quickly test this out. Slash user. We did user slash all, right? So let's see. Okay, yeah, good. So this is it now. We run localhost 3000 slash user slash all. That's our own endpoint for getting all the users in our record or in our database rather. You know, we have a local database in our server. So yeah, this is all the data in it. So you can also update one particular one by getting it by the ID and then updating it. Or you can even add more to it. So you just have to tweak your request method here. You just have to change it to maybe from get to maybe post or put. So let's quickly check our code again. So please guys, this might be a little bit faster, but then I expect you to go over the video again and try to understand everything that's going on here. Okay. So we have post here, right? Good. So for post, that's for post is basically for creating a new record. So we have all user records, right? So this is more like, this is not a real way of doing this CRUD operations, right? So this is just a mock database that we have here. We have a mock database. So just, this is just to explain the basic CRUD operations to you guys. So we have all user records, which is an array. I think it's what we got here in our request, response here. So this is it here, and it's an array. So if you want to create a new user, that means that you want to add more to the existing one. that you want to create a new user, you have to just add more to the one you have already in the database. So here, all users.push. So our database is or our all user records is an array, right? So we have to add a new one to it. So for instance, since we are not getting anything from let's say from Postman or from the front end, please don't forget, when you are using app.post, when you are creating a new record, right, you are always expecting the front end to send in that new user records. The record that you want to save in the database, you are expecting it, right? But now we don't have any record coming from the front end or wherever. So we're just going to generate our own right here. And it's an object, of course. So if we check our database schema, we have ID, we have name, and we have age, we have address. So that's the same thing we're going to do. We're going to send in the same data. So we have ID. Normally, your server or your database is supposed to generate this like automatically. If you are using, let's say, a NoSQL database, for instance, MongoDB, it's going to always generate an ID for each record automatically. But in our own case here, we are going to generate it manually. So where we stopped, I think we have 3 before. So we are going to like make it 4. And then name can be, let's assume my name. Yeah, right. I can't spell my name right again. Okay. What do we have next? I think we have age. So let's just say let's say I'm 1,000 years old. Yeah. Okay, and also address, right? So where am I staying? Oh yeah. Sorry, no address for now. Okay, so basically that's
All right, it's like Mr. Rebellion is having network issues. But then, just like we've spoken, if you have any questions as regards to the request method, you can always raise up your hand and I'll call upon you to ask your question. So for now, before it comes on, keep this to the back of your mind. Do not forget what the post request stands for. A post request actually helps you to send fresh data into the system. Your get request displays helps you to display or get back the data. Then your delete request, just like it is called delete, it deletes the data. Then the put request helps you to update. Like for instance, if you have a form where you have to update the user's data, or let's say your profile in, let's say your Facebook, you want to update it. What happens there is just you making an update request. When you create, let's say, a post on your Facebook, yeah, Facebook is actually a perfect example. When you create a post on Facebook, that's post request that was used. When you delete your post, that's a delete request. When you edit a post, that's an update request. So with Facebook, you can actually see that the whole of your CRUD operation is being used there in even a very little section of it. You can observe that a full create CRUD operation, the full CRUD operation is being used there. So with this knowledge, I actually wanted us to just get the knowledge so that by the time we get to do it on our own anytime, by the time we recall what those CRUD are, you up and down to know that this is what this is to do. By the time you see your get, you know this what get is to do. So I dropped a material for those who have not seen it. Check your chat section. You see a material there for Express. So by next week, we'll go deeper on Node.js on a database. We can actually start making use of our database. So for now, just practice. If you have any question, ask in the Slack generally, and we get to give you the answers. So I don't know if he is coming back to refresh you on that, but I do not have any database set up on my PC at the moment. I would have gone through how to do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. Okay, so yeah.
Normal post and a normal put and a normal. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. So
right.
Mr. Elijah will not be joining us again. Of course, we're way past the time. Yeah, supposed to be rounding up because there's another class that is on for one. Will reach out to you. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and stay tuned for your task. And of course, also make sure you ask your questions on the Slack channel and direct it to either Samuel or Remileko, or you can direct it to me. Okay, so thank you very much and have a wonderful day.